In a dramatic and emotional final in Miami 2026, Coco Gauff experienced one of the most frustrating matches of her recent career. What was supposed to be a moment of triumph quickly turned into a battle against not just her opponent, but herself. From the very beginning of the match, something felt off. Gauff stepped onto the court with intensity, but it didn't take long to notice that her timing wasn't quite there. Her usually reliable ground strokes started missing their targets, and unforced errors began to pile up early. On the other side of the net, Sabalenka came out firing, aggressive, confident, and precise. The first set slipped away quickly. Sabalenka dictated the pace with powerful serves and relentless baseline pressure, pushing Gauff into uncomfortable positions. Coco struggled to find rhythm, and her frustration started to show. Every missed shot seemed to weigh heavier than the last. Her body language told the story, hands on hips, shaking her head, and visible disbelief after routine errors. At one point, after missing a shot she would normally make without thinking, Gauff hit her leg lightly with her racket, trying to snap herself back into focus. Moments later, she clapped her hands together in frustration after another mistake. It was clear. This wasn't just about losing points. This was about losing control. The first set ended quickly, and it was a tough one to swallow. But champions don't go down without a fight. As the second set began, there was a visible shift. Gauff came out with more determination. Her footwork improved, her shots had more purpose, and she began to play with the intensity that brought her to the final in the first place. She started to step into the court more, taking time away from Sabalenka and forcing errors. The crowd could feel the momentum changing. Her serve became more reliable, and her backhand, one of her biggest weapons, started finding its mark again. She reduced the unforced errors and began constructing points more intelligently. Instead of rushing, she built rallies, waited for the right moment, and capitalized. This time, it was Sabalenka who had to react. Gauff fought hard for every point, and her energy lifted. You could see the belief returning. After a strong game to close out the second set, she let out a shout, not just of celebration, but of relief. She was back in the match. One set all. Everything came down to the third. But just as momentum seemed to be on her side, the final set turned into a mental and physical test. Sabalenka raised her level again, bringing back the aggression that made her so dangerous in the first set. Her serve was sharp, her forehand powerful, and most importantly, she stayed consistent. Gauff, unfortunately, couldn't maintain the same level she showed in the second set. The errors started creeping back in. Missed forehands, tight backhands, double faults at the worst possible moments. Each mistake seemed to hit harder than the last. You could see the frustration building again. She looked up at her box, searching for answers. She spoke to herself between points, trying to regroup, trying to stay composed, but it wasn't easy. At one moment, after another uncharacteristic error, she hit her racket against her leg again, this time with more frustration. Her emotions were boiling over. This wasn't just about losing a point, it was about knowing she could play better and not being able to find that level consistently. Meanwhile, Sabalenka stayed locked in. She kept applying pressure, attacking second serves, stepping inside the baseline, and forcing Gauff into difficult situations. Her game plan was clear. Be aggressive, take control, and don't let Coco settle. And it worked. As the match approached its final moments, the difference became clear. Sabalenka was sharper, more decisive, and more consistent. Gauff continued to fight, but the mistakes proved too costly. In the end, Sabalenka closed out the match, securing the Miami 2026 title. For Gauff, it was a heartbreaking finish. She had shown flashes of brilliance, especially in that second set, but the inconsistency and frustration ultimately got the better of her. It was one of those matches where the opponent played great, but you also felt like Coco was battling herself just as much as she was battling across the net. After the final point, Gauff stood still for a moment. You could see the disappointment on her face. She knew she had more to give. She knew this was a missed opportunity. But moments like this are also part of the journey. Losses like this, emotional, frustrating, difficult, are often the ones that shape a player the most. They expose weaknesses, test mental strength, and ultimately build resilience. For Sabalenka, it was a deserved victory. She executed her game plan perfectly, stayed aggressive, served well, and minimized errors when it mattered most. What made this final even more difficult for Coco Gauff was not just the scoreboard, but the feeling that the match was constantly slipping out of her control. There were moments where she looked ready to take over completely, especially after winning the second set. But those moments didn't last long enough. You could sense the internal battle she was going through. Between points, she was trying to reset, taking deep breaths, bouncing on her feet, even forcing herself to stay positive. But the frustration kept coming back. It's one of the toughest things in tennis, when you know exactly what you need to do, but your body just isn't executing. Sabalenka, on the other hand, did something that often goes under the radar. She stayed emotionally steady. Even when Gauff raised her level in the second set, Sabalenka didn't panic. She trusted her game, kept going for her shots, and waited for the right moment to strike again. And that moment came early in the third set. A couple of loose errors from Gauff, combined with a strong return game from Sabalenka, shifted the pressure immediately. From there, Coco was once again playing from behind, and that's exactly where Sabalenka wanted her. Being aggressive from the front allowed her to dictate rallies and keep Gauff on the defensive. Another key difference was the serve. In big matches like this, the serve can decide everything. Sabalenka's serve gave her free points and confidence, especially in tight moments. Gauff, meanwhile, had patches where her serve let her down, whether it was a missed first serve or a double fault at the wrong time. And against a player like Sabalenka, those small lapses get punished instantly. As the final games approached, you could see Gauff still fighting, still trying to push back. She wasn't giving up, far from it, but the gap in consistency was just too big on this day. What stands out the most is how rare it is to see Coco struggle like this emotionally on such a big stage. She's known for her composure, her maturity, and her ability to compete under pressure. That's why this match felt different. It showed a more human side of her,